Hey there everyone, welcome to the first day of filming for my brand new cooking channel. My name is Rylie of thrivingwithrylie.com, and this is going to be super exciting because everything I'll be making on this channel will be gluten-free. About 95% of it will be dairy-free except for maybe a little bit of sheep or goat cheese, totally optional, and also everything will have a vegan option for all of my beloved vegan friends. So, I've already done a little bit of prep here. What I'm going to be making for my very first episode is one of my favorite foods in the world, stuffing. Thanksgiving is coming up, you know, for whatever reason you celebrate it. I celebrate it because I love being with my family. Stuffing is kind of the number one for me. So I'm making a gluten-free, dairy-free butternut squash and bacon stuffing. So obviously if you're vegan, you can omit the eggs, you can omit the bacon, and you can use veggie stock, and then you're pretty much good to go. I will be writing all the recipes for these in the YouTube description. They will also be on my website in the articles section, as well as all of my other little platforms. So you can find me on Instagram at thrivingwithrylie.com, or thrivingwithrylie, or at the website at thrivingwithrylie.com. And let's get started. I've already done a little bit of the prep because I don't want this to be a 2-hour tutorial. So I've gone ahead and chopped celery into small pieces. I've diced some onion so you don't have to see me cry. I've got my eggs laid out here. I've also gone ahead and cubed some butternut squash and carrots, which I have par roasted. They're a little bit firmer, so you want to cook those a little bit. I'm actually going to give them a quick saute as well before I toss them in with the rest of the stuffing. Since they are firmer, you want them to be thoroughly cooked as well. I've also par cooked some bacon and chopped some zucchini. I like loading up pretty much everything I cook with lots of hidden vegetables, or not so hidden because I love vegetables. So let's go ahead and get things started. I've got some bread cubes toasting in the oven. These you can just stack up about 5 slices of bread and cut them into little cubes about this big. And then you can just lightly toast them in the oven. You want to move it around and then kind of toss it back in. Be careful because broilers are intense and they'll go from bread cubes to charcoal really fast. Okay, and then I've got my broths laid out over here. I've got a little bit of vegan butter. I'm dairy intolerant. You totally use regular butter and regular bread. You know, this is literally a tutorial for everyone. I like everybody to feel included. So, let's see here. I've cooked the bacon in my cast iron pan, which is where I'll be baking my stuffing. I think it looks cute and rustic, and then you don't have to put it on a serving dish or anything. So I'm going to turn, since I cooked the bacon in this, it's already got a nice like bacony layer. But if you didn't cook the bacon, you can just add a little bit of your butter of choice. I really like this butter flavored coconut oil from Nativa. Not advertising it, it's just awesome. So I'm going to turn the pan on to about medium-high. I'm going to melt that butter, and then I'm going to start by sauteing my onions. This can turn off because my bread is toasted, and I've got a large bowl, so you want to very carefully take out this pan. I've got a really large mixing bowl here. You're going to need this for when you toss all your ingredients together. So I've got my other bread cubes in here already. And I'm going to very carefully lift up this pan. I've got parchment paper on it, so my thumb is holding the parchment paper so it doesn't slide off. And now I've got all my nice little toasty bread cubes together. This I'll just set out of the way in the oven, which is currently off. This stuffing can be made like a couple days in advance. What you're going to want to do is just par cook it. Depending on your oven, you want to cook it at about 350 degrees for, I would say, 30 minutes, just to make sure that it's thoroughly par cooked. And then the day of, you can just toss it in the oven at about 400 for 15 to 20 minutes when the turkey comes out, if you're a turkey person. I know that ovens tend to be pretty crammed during the holidays, or at least mine are. So, butter is melted in the pan. We're going to add the onion. And move that around. I'm using metal because this is cast iron. If you have a non-stick pan that you're using, do not use metal on it. It's very bad. Very, very bad. So, give these a nice little saute. Now add a pinch of salt. I try to only use pink salt or other fine quality salts. I don't use iodized salt. It's really not that good for you. Pink salt has a bunch of minerals that your body needs, and it's not super processed. So we are sauteing this. So I've been really excited to make this channel for a really long time. I just really think that once a lot of people hear that they have certain allergies, they tend to give up on eating foods that they love, or, you know, worse, they'll just kind of ignore the fact that they have allergies and eat the food that they're allergic to, which, if, you know, maybe you aren't in touch with your body, but it's pretty bad for you, especially gluten. It can cause way more intense problems down the road. More on that another time. But yeah, for a long time, I didn't really acknowledge my allergies, and I was just sick all the time and feeling terrible. And it's just been a really big game changer for me to learn how to cook all these things, so I don't feel like I'm missing out, because I love food. I've been cooking since I was like 10. And yeah, I just want to be a part of it. So once the onions have that sort of nice little translucency going on, you can add the celery. You'll find that you may end up with extra ingredients from this. I always do. I always prep too much. They make a really great breakfast hash, so you can just kind of saute everything except for the bread. And, you know, throw an egg on it. All right. So we've got this cooking. I've got my other vegetables part cooked. Since zucchini cooks really quick, we're just going to toss that in right at the last minute before we kind of toss all the ingredients together, just for a quick minute. And then we'll toss everything together. So, cheers. Okay, so I've gone ahead and par cooked all my other vegetables. So I've got my onions and my celery and my carrots and my butternut squash all in here. I've seasoned it with a mixture of Italian seasoning, granulated garlic. I don't like to use powdered garlic. A lot of times, if you are allergic to gluten or you just don't like additives, powdered spices and things often will have an additive to keep them from caking. So minced or granulated garlic, that's the one. And then really just if you have any kind of like fun herby, shalloty, oniony seasoning, those are all really great to add. For God's sake, use fresh cracked pepper if you love the people that you're feeding this to and yourself, because pre-crushed pepper is just, it's not the same. So we've got plenty of spices in here. I'm going to add a little bit more Himalayan salt. And I'm going to mix the salt up. I've been cooking it covered on medium for about 15 minutes. Again, they don't have to be totally cooked because you are going to bake it. You just want to have them be par cooked so that they are thoroughly cooked in the stuffing. If you like crunchy vegetables in your stuffing, that's cool. You might be a little weird, but totally fine. Just cook the vegetables less. All right, so going to add these vegetables to my huge bowl that has my bread cubes. And set that aside. And then I'm going to add a little bit of butter, like a quarter of a cube or a heaping tablespoon, depending on how you're measuring things. Everything I measure is approximate. I'm terrible at measuring, and I'm terrible at writing recipes down, but I'm going to try to be better for you guys. So I've got my butter melting. My pan is still on medium. And then I'm just going to briefly saute these little zucchini cubes, like I said. They don't need as much time as the other vegetables, so that is why we're doing them separately. The other rad thing about this is that it's pretty much a one-pan deal, the way that we're doing it, so you don't have to make a big mess. So, while this is just kind of sauteing here, I can start to mix these vegetables into the bread cubes. You want to just get everything all nice and mixed up. Mushrooms are also really good in this if you're a mushroom human, especially if you don't want to do the meat. If you just want to make it like a mushroom and butternut squash stuffing, also a really solid option. In terms of getting it to hold together, you can use a flax egg, or you can put some chia in here. If you want to soak a little bit of chia in some broth. You know, there's a lot of different, at some point I'll do a tutorial about how to do some vegan mods, but for now the rest of YouTube I'm sure will serve you well for flax eggs and chia as vegan substitutes. I have also cracked my eggs, and I added a splash of macadamia milk. I just like adding a little bit of like a richness or a creaminess. A vegan yogurt also, just like a spoonful, just kind of adds a little bit of depth. I'm also going to add a little bit of guajillo chili. I like to add a touch of chili to most things. It just adds a sort of like smoky, sort of unexpected element that I really like a lot. So we're just going to add a little bit. And then another thing I love adding is smoked salt. You get a little smokiness from the bacon, but especially if you're not using bacon, smoked salt is super delicious. This is alder smoked salt, and I like to fresh grind it. You just get the best flavors anytime you fresh grind anything. Just go ahead and use this to salt the zucchini. Add a little more fresh cracked pepper. All right, give this a quick stir. If you're anything like me, like I said, you're going to end up with a lot of extra. You know, you can always just make 2 pans of stuffing, or like I said, you can omit the bread and then turn it into a really yummy breakfast hash. Or you can toss it in soup. You got a lot of options. It's really just like an easy vegetable base that just is super versatile. So, we just did a second on the zucchini here. And I'm going to go ahead and add the zucchini to my big bowl. All right. So I've got all my veggies out of the pan, but there's still a good amount. I don't need to grease the pan because I've been cooking in it, so it's already got a good amount of butter. Again, we're mixing this all up just to get the veggies nice and evenly distributed. Okay. Now, I'm just going to chop my bacon really quick. Whenever I order takeout, I like to keep these little soup containers and clean them because I just hate adding more trash to the world. And these are just like the kind of containers that you'll see that people in professional kitchens prepping with. So I'll put all of my pre-chopped stuff in here. Like I said, you can prep a lot of this in advance if you don't prep the stuffing in advance. You can chop all your vegetables the day before. And as long as they're tightly sealed, I would put a little paper towel in there just to kind of absorb the excess moisture. But yeah, you can do this in a lot of different easy ways and stages. So I am going to chop my bacon really quick. Again, just like the vegetables, you want to just par cook the bacon because it will be cooking in the stuffing for much longer. So, you know, I wouldn't suggest eating it while you're chopping it to put into the stuffing. And it's a nice rough chop. You know, this is a rustic dish. Nothing has to be perfect. You don't have to perfectly dice. You don't have to perfectly do anything. So I've got all of my awesome bacon. Okay. So then I'm going to take, I used 6 eggs. You can use however many you feel like you need to bind all of this together. But I've got my 6 eggs and I've got my macadamia milk. So you don't need to bother whisking the eggs beforehand. They're definitely going to get crushed and moved all around. So you're going to just, again, mix all of this. Make sure you've got egg really well distributed over everything, or chia or flax egg or whatever it is you're using. Okay. So everything is nice and mixed. I've got tons of spices in here. I tend to over-season everything and it comes out delicious. So it's just how I roll. So then I'm going to add some of the broth to the bowl. I would say about a cup. So add a cup of broth to the bowl, and then you're going to keep stirring. So you're just going to gently, again, gluten-free bread tends to fall apart, so you want to mix this really gently. And once everything is nice and evenly coated with the egg and the broth, all the bread looks like it's got a good bit of moisture on it, then at that point we're good to go. We can just spoon this back into the pan. Very carefully because this bowl is huge. So I'm just smoothing. Like I said, we've got lots left over. I've actually got another pan pre-greased and ready because I love stuffing. So, or you can give it away as a gift. So I've got two beautiful pans of stuffing here. You can kind of press it down to make sure everything's really well intermixed. All right. Gonna be eating stuffing for days and I'm totally cool with it. Toss this in the sink. Okay. So at this point, like I said, you can totally cook this stuffing on the stovetop. What you're going to want to do is just turn it down really low and cover it. So you can cook it like that for about 15 minutes if you're just going to par cook it. So you want to cook it for about 15 minutes just like this. And then you're going to actually want to take more broth and just drizzle broth over the whole thing. And this just keeps it super delicious, super rich. Hate the word moist, but that's what it is. It is what it is. All right, so we are going to cover that. It's on low, it's got the broth. If you are baking it, you can totally just cover it with broth. And then bake it uncovered or bake it covered. I don't know. Try both. See what happens. If you like the top crispy, bake it uncovered. If you're not so much for the crispy bread topping, then cover it up just with aluminum foil. All right, so we're going to let this cook for a little bit and then I'll check back in. All right, so welcome back. The stuffing has been baking at 400 for about 45 minutes. I just went ahead and baked one uncovered and one covered just for fun. They both look awesome. I took the foil off about 10 minutes ago for the covered one just so it could crisp a little bit on the top. Just make sure that it's not like too brothy on the inside as well. Just dry that out a little bit. And we're about to take them out of the oven. So I'm gonna get my trusty little kitchen towel here. I know that I should use oven mitts, but I just don't. I just use kitchen towels. So I've got the one that was covered and the one that was uncovered. They both look super gorgeous. This is the uncovered version. But the egg's nice and firm. It's got a really beautiful golden color on it. You know, it looks done. It's done. And then same thing. You'll know that it's done when you tilt it and you don't really see any broth start to come out the sides. Then that's done as well. So I will post the recipe and a very carefully photographed photograph on the Instagram. So cruise over to Thriving with Rylie and check that out. And then come to my next episode and tune in, and I will be making a super, super delicious, super veggie-packed mushroom gravy that is amazing. Again, gluten and dairy free, and can very easily be vegan. So I'm really excited to share that and a gajillion more recipes with you guys. So if you are excited to see more, let me know what stuff you'd like to see made gluten-free or dairy-free or vegan in the comments, and subscribe because I'm just getting started. So cheers to you. Take care. I'll see you next time.